Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the latest episode of the Genesys Cloud Community's Q&A show, the show where we answer your pressing questions in the Genesys online community. My name is Matt Lawson. I'm your online community manager, and today we are wrapping up part 3 of our reporting and analytics series. I know, pour one out for the series. It's been so much fun to do. I've loved getting to know the reporting and analytics team a little closer. And I think we're going out on a really interesting topic. Today, we're going to be talking all about data lakes, how you can take the wonderful data that you have from Genesys and get it out into the various platforms that you want to do all of the reporting, dashboards, whatever you need. It's a really fun conversation. And the best part is you might even be able to retrieve your historical data. We're going to be talking to Austin and Ryan. Ryan, you may recognize from the last episode. Austin is brand new to the show. I just finished recording with them. They're great guys. So I want to get out of the way and let them have the floor. Austin and Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Doing great, thank you.
Very cool. We're recording this on a Friday, and Ryan, you and I were joking just before we started recording. I think you set a record the first time we've had the same guest on in less than a week. So congratulations to you. Probably not the record you wanted to set, but I'm still excited to see you again.
Oh, I want to talk to customers, so this is a good record to set.
This is a good one. And from what I understand, the role will be flipped a little bit. You're going to be asking a majority of these questions, and Austin will be doing a majority of the talking. That sounds great to me because, like I said, it's my Friday, so I get to relax a little bit. But let's go ahead and do the easy part first. Introductions. Let's go ahead. Ryan, I know you were just here, but one more time, can you tell the people who you are and what you do at Genesys?
Yep, I'm Ryan Legner. I'm a principal product manager for analytics and reporting. I primarily focused on the backend components, the APIs and event bridge methods, of data coming out of our services.
Awesome. Austin, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, my name is Austin Keogh. I'm also principal product manager, but on the event data platform. My primary responsibilities are around getting the data out and building our data lakehouse, which we'll hear a little bit more about.
Yeah, and again, this is part 3 of our series. I think at this point we've answered all of the questions that came in, which is really great. Again, thank your team so much for helping us get all of this together. Without further ado, Ryan, I'm going to let you take it from here and go ahead and tee Austin up with a couple of questions.
Yeah, cool. So today we're going to talk about our Lakehouse project that we've been building and just clarify what that is. So Austin, like I'll introduce Austin. He's our PM that's been running this whole effort. So I'll get to ask him a bunch of questions, me coming from data perspective and supporting our APIs that we have in the platform today. And then Austin's building a lot of exciting stuff that'll really launch forward. Our abilities to let customers get data out without having to go to third parties and getting native functionality in the platform. So, Austin, I'll ask the first breaker. What exactly is Data Lakehouse and why would customers need it?
Our attempt at making sure that customers are put first when accessing their data on the Genesys platform. So it's an open iceberg-based analytics layer on Amazon S3 that will give you kind of governed source of truth for the Genesys Cloud data. So we found, a vast majority of our customers, organizations are already exporting data, or as Brian mentioned, through APIs or real-time data streams to third-party data warehouses. The Lakehouse is going to make that export much quicker, more consistent, auditable, and paving the way for a whole suite of capabilities that Genesys is going to offer based on the Lakehouse. And we can touch on them after we at the end of this section.
Like, what are the advantages over going this route rather than, going third party? Like, what are the kind of capabilities that we could deliver that maybe partners may not have the same access to?
That's a great question. So it's really centered around the Genesys Cloud data and being able to utilize that data, extract that data, and also have that data in a situation where you might use third-party data sources to add to this Genesys data, and being able to provide a solid platform that is Genesys controlled and customer usable will really address those issues. Obviously, from a cost perspective, Genesys is looking to make sure that we are offering something that is comparable for the cost of utilizing Genesys platform. So that's at the forefront of our minds as well.
Do we know what the models are for this? Like, can customers get this for out of the box, or is it going to be an extra license fee?
It's likely going to be an add-on, and we're still thinking about how we structure this from a billing perspective. Likely going to be a CX3 license add-on at some point. And again, what we're looking at is what additional capabilities are we adding on top of this to increase that value add. So if you think of, oh, well, I can go to a third-party maintainer or use a different system, get my data, let them do the transformation on it, let them give me the insights, you would be missing out on some of the additional value add from Genesys future-facing products later on. So this is what we're seeing as a kind of a key foundational keystone to building on capabilities later.
So obviously this is going to be an iterative approach. Like, we won't have everything on day one. We'll add functionality as this evolves. What kind of features, what are the main initial release that we'll have to be able to give? Like, what will they be able to do with it? And when will they have it in their hands?
Great stuff. Yeah, great question. So we are targeting an MVP release in the second half of this year. So that key functionality we're looking to enable is the transformation of the data on the platform. So if you use APIs today, you take those APIs, you get some JSON data, you put that into your ETL. You might be calling 40 different APIs. You might be reconciling those pieces of data with event bridge data. You might be, going back and checking data freshness. Things like that are common themes that we're hearing from customers. What we're thinking of for this first MVP is where it will be the ability to call one single API and retrieve all of your data with a freshness of between 5 and 10 minutes. So all of that data we're going to be passing by a pre-signed URL to an S3 container. You'll be able to extract that data in a friendly SQL-like table format. So again, very easy to push into relational databases. The data will be complete as well, so there's going to be no need to go back and reconcile that with either real-time streams or event bridge data to verify that the backfills are complete. These are complete sets of data. Now we're seeing a pattern of customers primarily doing extracts maybe every 24 hours, doing those daily reports. This would be ideal in that particular use case. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to be able to access a large set of data every 24 hours, this would be the API endpoint to call.
And do I get to choose how often I import the data in my database? Like, I know you mentioned that we have like freshness of 5 to 10 minutes or so, but maybe I don't want to be that aggressive of how I want to grab it. Can I have the option that where I could just grab it every hour? It doesn't matter. I just gather whatever I had.
Yeah, for our initial piece of this increment, what we're saying is we're dumping the data into this bucket. You can come and come as frequently as you wish to get that data. Obviously, there's a little bit more curation in terms of making sure that if you're getting it every hour, are you downloading the whole lot every hour? Maybe you just want to download the elements that are changed. So that's a responsibility we're putting on the customers for now, but that changes as we progress through this Lakehouse program.
But that'll be like, that's a good point too, because like it'll be real clear what data has changed, so I get the choice of whether and pull down all of it. Maybe I need to for some reason, or maybe I just want to pull down the changes and be really efficient about it.
Exactly. Yeah, you have that choice of maybe I'm just going to do a 24-hour extract every day and just have my data warehouse do that resolution of the data, or maybe I want to be very specific and pull down segments of data within certain periods of time.
Because I hear a lot of benefits here that I imagine some people watching this video here, like there's a lot of good advantages here that we have trouble with sometimes with our details endpoints and our jobs endpoints is you kind of need to pull all of it. You can't just see what changed in the last 24 hours or last hour. We don't support that well. And this seems like a much more tailor fit solution to enable that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you'll get a list of URLs and you can select from the URLs and the timestamps within those URLs which exact pieces of data that you want to download.
Are Are there situations where API rate limits could be a headache working with the solution?
I think if there are existing fair use limits that you're battling up against, one of the issues here that we addressed was calling multiple APIs multiple times. You're calling one
Yeah.
API with this, so that definitely alleviates some of
And
the
even
strain
like
in terms of this.
do we know what it looks like if I was querying the API pulling down this batch data? How many individual requests would I have to do? Does it depend on the size of my organization? Like, are they files in certain limits? Or is it just one API request gives me a download URL and I pull down that large file and
Yeah,
that's it?
that's pretty much it. It's one API request, and it gives you a set of all the file URLs that are contained within that S3 bucket at that point in time.
So it doesn't even
So
seem like API limits are a concern at all. Like if this is just data
this is it.
ingestion, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to worry about looping through endpoints and pulling a bunch of data in small chunks. I don't have to worry about going to different services all over the place to get that user sort of config data to reconcile with my data warehouse. It's packaged up.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just a downloadable file and I ingest it.
Yes, that's it
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
In terms of our MVP, so this is the functionality we'll be releasing in the second half. It's actually coming up very soon in terms of a couple of months' time. Now, the important thing to remember here is we're targeting conversation details job endpoint first. So
Mhm.
that's the main endpoint that our customers use. We'll be adding pieces of data to that as we work through the release cycle for this and bring it towards general availability and into the licensing model. So we'll be including things like agent presence state, agent profile, routing config, WEM data, surveys, all of the different sources and pieces of data that are in Genesys Cloud, we'll be adding to this over
Yeah.
time. So it incrementally increases.
And I talked about this in my last video where we have this microservice model that makes us very well for scalability, but then when it comes into bringing data together to get that centralized reporting, that's where sometimes it's not the ideal solution. And it sounds like a lot of really cool roadmap areas where we can bring in all these data points, add them all together, and give you a cohesive place to be able to get them.
That's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, Ryan. Yeah.
Um.
Oh, sorry,
Oh
real
yeah.
quick.
You go ahead. You go
Yeah,
ahead,
I was
Matt.
just curious. You're talking about some of this will be available, we're hoping in the back half of this year. Do you have it? I was just curious, like for people who are interested, maybe in attending experience, is that where you're hoping to have like a hands-on demo of this, a breakout session closer to release, anything like that you can kind of share right now, or have you not gotten there yet?
We have some plans in terms of how we're going to socialize this. So that one of the elements here that we're talking about is this initial foundation piece, right? Where we're talking about it's an S3, it's an API call, it's instead of 40 APIs, you're calling once. This kind of progresses beyond that access pattern in the back half of this year and into early next year. And if I can just steer the conversation to those elements, because these really form the Lakehouse aspect of what we're building here. So what we're building is a foundation, and that's what we're going to be releasing in the next few months. But on that foundation, we'll be building services that are based on some AWS technologies such as Redshift and lake formation data sharing. Those will allow customers who are, a little bit more embedded in the Genesys ecosystem to be able to query that data directly rather than extracting it.
Ooh,
So
tell me more about that. Tell me more about the lake formation. That sounds interesting.
this gets very
Yeah.
exciting very quickly. So we're moving from a paradigm of APIs in the past or in the current to transformed data in ready packages to a paradigm of query this data in situ or use lake formation data share across AWS tenants to receive this data instantly without copying. So
So so
it's a complete paradigm shift.
if I'm not a database expert here and I'm approaching this, what does this do for me? What like if I'm a supervisor, I run reports for my contact center and I want to know how this is going to make life better for me. What can this do
Yes.
for me?
That's our key use cases here. If you're a supervisor and you're thinking, right, well, I have this HRMS data, right, employee IDs, and I have this Genesys Cloud data, and I can't really reconcile the two without extracting, transforming, putting it into tables, and merging it with other data sources within my organization. I use HRMS as one, but this same pattern happens repeatedly with other ERP systems, CRMs, etc. What this will allow you to do is be able to connect those data sources directly and query them as if it's a seamless layer or a lakehouse that is transparent to the different sources. So the real power here is in what we can enable from a Genesis perspective, giving you back your data as customers without having to have that onerous copy and transform and store on your side, right, from an architecture perspective.
So I think it's a good segue to talk about the partner model. So what if I'm a customer today? I use a partner to data warehouse, or I have my own custom solution that I home grew to be able to do this. What does it look like? Why would I maybe give that up, or why would I maybe stay with my partner, or are we leaving partners high and dry with this solution? What kind of
Yeah,
piece of the pie do we leave them by delivering this feature?
that that's a great question. I get that asked that many times, not just in relation to partners, but also A3S and any
Yeah,
additional add-ons. The answer here is it allows partners in particular to leverage more value add services on top of this. So if you
yeah.
use a partner and you say to the partner, look, we can leverage this lake formation data share, that partner will be very excited to work with you as a customer to help you leverage that capability to expand the insights that they can offer. And particularly with A3S as well, a lot of the technology learnings from A3S have fed into this program in terms of what the professional services offer today. So there is some overlap there, but A3S will continue in terms of being able to offer that white glove experience and that
Yeah.
higher level and tier of service. So we'll continue with
Because
those
you can
programs.
imagine like how much demand in the industry there has been for custom reporting, that's not going away. Like we're going to make it easier to get data into your external database or whatever databases you want to use, but there's still a lot of opportunity for having that white glove experience where I want someone to help me connect these data sources together, and I want someone to help me build really good reports, and I need that consultation type of help that you're not going to get out of the box from, a Genesys employee of some sort, unless you hire PS, obviously. If we engage
Exactly.
PS, you'll get that, but it's the same thing. I mean, PS consulting, doing reporting, or whether you do an external party to do it. So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity there. And maybe in some aspects, I got to imagine that this data load process is a headache for some of these customers because I know firsthand that it's not an easy task to be able to complete. It's not an easy task to maintain. That if
Yeah.
we were taking it over, it was default in the product. It's really consistent that we have a data model and it's coming out of Genesys. It would take a lot of those headaches out of the customer and they can out of the partner's role and then really give them the opportunity to focus on detailed customer reporting and focused use cases and bringing data together.
Exactly. All the customers and partners that I've spoken to are unanimous in their enthusiasm for this feature and this functionality and where it's going, because
Yeah.
they recognize that there's definite pain point resolution here, and also a situation where that those additional services that Genesys will offer unlock new opportunities, especially around leveraging Copilot capabilities off this, leveraging true enterprise journey management capabilities from the
Yeah.
Lakehouse. There's a lot of functionality here that gets unlocked once we have that single source of truth of data that encompasses all of that particular customer's data on this Lakehouse platform that they can access, and they can share access to that data and incorporate their own sources of data with it. There's a lot of opportunity here.
So what's the retention policy like on this? So I imagine we're going to stage data in the S3 buckets. How long do I have to be able to grab this data? What's our expectations? How long that'll live?
Yeah, that's a good point. At the moment, for the initial MVP release, what we'll be targeting is 3-day retention. So we're targeting those customers who are doing daily extracts, querying it either every day, every 48 hours, this sort of thing, to be able to get their data out. Following and subsequent to that, what we'll be doing is expanding that retention period for the customers in CX3 and the add-on in particular, to be able to enable that leverage, that Redshift and lake formation data sharing capabilities. So what we'll have is retention periods that are similar to what they have today from API access. So if you think of the customers that are using it today and talking about retention periods, it'll match that from a platform perspective.
How does it work if I've been a customer for a long time and I just signed up for this? Like if I've been a customer for years, like if I've been a customer for 4 years and I just signed up for this, and I can get data coming in today, get into the database. Am I going to be able to like request a single load, get everything from the last 4 years?
Yes, yeah, we're bringing in that as one of our increments in the latter half of this year. So initially, you switch it on; it's your data feed and it's being processed in that bucket. Later on in the year, we'll switch on that ability to be able to pull in a bulk amount of data so that you can seed your data warehouse with this, and also seed that S3 container for your Redshift and your lake formation sharing capabilities later on.
Because that was the first thing that popped in my mind, is like this 3 days. What if my organization had an issue pulling in this data and it took me a week to resolve it, like for my corporate processes, whatever it may be, and I needed to catch up. So I passed my 3-day window. I'm missing a window of data. How do I get that back? And it sounds like the bulk export, once I have that capability, I'd be able to trigger that and then catch myself back up and eventually reconcile the differences.
Yeah, that's the plan. Exactly, Ryan.
Cool.
I have a question going to your idea of importing the data. One of the things I noticed working with different community software platforms, especially like because you're talking about how this will be like an API call. So I'm assuming, are you thinking like this data will be able to feed into obviously systems like Snowflake, so you could then start doing reports in like Tableau, Pentaho, whatever. I'm also thinking about Salesforce because I see that being a really strong bridge here. Are you all actively testing like what that integration will look like, how the data is passed over? Because one of the things I've noticed going from platform to platform is like sometimes fields come over as text fields versus numerical fields, and you want that numerical field, but sometimes the text field is helpful because you can then query the text to look for trends and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, can you talk a little bit about the process of how you're going to feed the data and decide how it gets displayed in these various systems?
Yeah, it's a little bit outside of the scope of this, but from what I've discussed with numerous customers, they've come with, look, we have Snowflake, we have Azure, we have Google Cloud Platform. How do we leverage this best? From an API perspective and from the initial MVP, obviously they're pretty clear. They'll get the data, they'll be able to use this and import it into their data warehouses as it is. As we move towards using those AWS specific technologies around Redshift and lake formation data sharing, we've had some discussions around how customers could best leverage this in a kind of a cross-platform way. Some customers have even said, look, we have Google Cloud as or Azure or one of those other providers as our main data warehouse, but we have this ingestion capability built on AWS to be able to provide that data in. And that's an option for customers in the medium term, right? Once we stand up these capabilities, there'll be option there to link their AWS tenant with our AWS tenant, consume that data, and then pass it on to their provider of choice, so to speak, after that. In terms of long term and how we get this data to customers, there's a lot of exploration here in terms of the different technologies and how we would best share that. One of the key advantages we have with using AWS and lake formation data sharing in particular is that not having to copy data from one source to another. I was speaking to a customer recently, and they were very much of the opinion that the age of moving data is over. It's the age of sharing data and sharing access to data through strong security and authentication procedures. That's the age that we're living in now, and I'm excited to be part of this project to catch up with that, right?
And that seems very much the lake formation. That's what that's all about, is to not have to always copy the data and have it in multiple places, giving you access to it, to have that linkages in place, and you can then have control over linking everything together to centralize it.
Exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
even within, a customer's organization, you may say, well, some organizations within my group need this sort of access to this data. And you can kind of set that permission level on the lake formation data share so that you don't have to say, all right, everyone in engineering or HR or R&D or marketing has access to everything. You can segment that and make sure that there is appropriate controls on that data.
Oh, do we have anything else? I feel like I ran out of my topics. I'm running out of questions. Do you have anything else we want to touch on, or just how do I stay informed on this? How do I keep up with the progress and the phases that come out?
Yeah, there is. So we'll be publishing obviously our release notes in terms of when this functionality comes out. We'll be publishing roadmap updates. When the appropriate avenues in terms of experience and things like that come up, we'll definitely be jumping on them in terms of being able to publicize this functionality. One thing that we've been using extensively for this particular piece of work is the Genesys Ideas portal. So we have communicated there. We've gotten a lot of great feedback and a lot of responses in terms of votes for this idea. So if anyone is interested, have a look at the Genesys Ideas portal. We're in there under the data integration and connectors. So dive in there and have a look. And there's a suite of ideas under this and some related ideas that you can vote on, you can comment, you can, again, kind of give your perspective and we'll take heed.
Take heed. I love it.
Take heed.
Yeah, take heed. Very cool. This was a great session. Thank you so much for coming on. Really exciting stuff. I guess like I'm just excited to when we can get to the point where we actually can like see this in production, right? See what it looks like. And when that happens, I'm sure there will be a lot of questions and plenty of time for walkthroughs. And I hope you can come back on the show again and yeah, give us a proper demo.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, Matt. Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like it'd be cool to see this like in place and show people,
Mhm.
this setup,
Yep.
what you can do with it, what you have access to it. It'd be really exciting.
Yeah, there are a whole lot of branches with it, right? Because it's like once you have the data, then you also start talking about the different systems you can integrate it into. How does that work? Like there's a lot of room for this. A lot of really
And
great
I
topics.
and I know, like, I mean, representing the UI side, I work closely with them too. I mean, I know that we're looking a lot heavily into this as well, that once this is out and available, and we have that whole lake formation concept, we'll be looking into UI solutions that come straight out of the product that'll be
Oh,
able to
cool.
leverage this. So
That's great.
you won't be totally on your own to say, like, here's your database, go connect it and have your way with it. We'll have plenty of out of the box kind of functionality as well that we want to pair with it.
That's awesome. Well, this was great. I guess the only other question I had, you mentioned the Ideas Lab. I'd be remiss if I did not ask, do you think there will be any kind of like free trial period with this when it's released? Will there be a beta? Just any kind of chance for customers who are maybe interested in getting their hands on it and, the early, testing phases, or, really early release phases?
Yes, there is. So we're targeting once we go limited availability with this functionality, we're going to be able to select a set of customers to trial this.
Okay,
We're in the process of identifying that list and figuring out
cool.
how many customers, what our scalability limits are, and working through some of those kinks. So definitely, if there's a strong case to be made, reach out to your account team. You can
Yeah.
get us through the ideas lab, as you
I,
mentioned.
yeah, I know the
Yeah.
Ideas Lab is a great recruitment tool for you guys when it comes to this because they always look for
Mm.
people who are already invested in the idea, and you can pair them with. We'd love to have somebody at your org size or whatever test it. So yeah, fabulous recommendation. Well, cool. Well, I'm honestly kind of sad because Ryan, I've gotten to see you twice in the past week, and now I don't know when I get to see you again. It may not be until experience or maybe when a new feature comes out that you get to demo here. My friend,
Yeah.
before you go, what do you have to share with us?
For me,
Yeah.
I would say the biggest one maybe you might see me next is for the custom calculations feature. So
Oh, cool.
that's my feature that we're running, and we're pretty close to having that one released. We're at the final finish line, so I think we could definitely probably walk through and do a demo of that one, show you what the cool things that we'll be able to bring inside the UI for that feature.
Awesome. Well, the reporting and analytics community will be a great place for you to hopefully debut that, get some feedback, do whatever. This has been great, guys. Thank you all so much. Happy Friday. That concludes our first, maybe not last, but at least our first reporting and analytics series, a three-parter, which has been a lot of fun to record. And we hope everybody enjoyed. I guess that's all I got to say. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Again, sad to see the reporting and analytics series at an end, but just remember the reporting analytics community is very much alive and well. A lot of people that you've seen on this show are members there, and they are happy to help you answer your questions. Come hang out with moderator Sam, great people like Ryan, Lori, Greg, Austin, so many fabulous people I've had the pleasure to collaborate on this series with, all thanks to you and the questions that you submitted. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and call this one a day. It is my Friday, and I hope you have a great day ahead for yourselves. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.